Good afternoon. Imagine this. You are given a math test or a math problem, and then suddenly you experience these: heavy breathing, butterflies in your stomach, shaking, insecurity on your answers, feel like crying, you have cold sweats, nervous, or being stressed in general just because of that math problem. Yes, maybe for once in our life, we have experienced mathematics anxiety. And a lot of researchers claim that it negatively affects mathematics learning and attitudes towards the field of mathematics. It is hard to be a student nowadays because while being caught up with mathematics anxiety and other problems in learning, another challenge in education emerged due to the COVID-19 pandemic. When the pandemic happened, a major shift in the world processes happened, including in the education sector. You yourself might have experienced this, or maybe someone you know have experienced this shift from physical classes to the remote learning setup. And we know that based on various educational theories, this shift in the environment might affect the learning of the students. So going back with our previous concern, being aware on the shift of learning modalities and various changes in education brought by the pandemic, just how did these affect the mathematics anxiety of the students? Hello, I am Regina Germain Eduardo, a BS Mathematics and Science teaching student majoring in mathematics from the University of the Philippines, Las Bañas. And I am here to talk about mathematics anxiety and the COVID-19 pandemic. So this seminar is based on how the pandemic or how the COVID-19 pandemic affected high school students Mathematical Anxiety During Distance Learning by Ryan Christiansen in 2021. To give you an overview of my seminar, I will introduce to you what is mathematics anxiety, how does this affect a person, why is it an issue, and what happened to it after the pandemic occurred. I will also be discussing about Ryan Christiansen's study by giving you the highlights of the methodology, results, discussions, and conclusions of his paper. Then I will give you the key takeaways from the whole seminar or the whole topic. So first, going back with our previous slide, some common symptoms, they are the common symptoms of mathematics anxiety. So they are similar to the symptoms of regular anxiety because this is just a another type of anxiety experienced by people. So according to Baylock and Wilhelm 2014, mathematics anxiety is the stress associated with an insecurity in a student's own ability to solve a math problem. So just like our scenario a while ago, experiencing those symptoms because of a math problem is a sign of mathematics anxiety. And this anxiety can be experienced by anyone, a child, an adult, someone who is good at math, someone who is not so good at math, someone who take math as a career, and someone who don't. So this mathematics anxiety can be experienced or can happen to anyone at different levels. So some levels are too extreme that really affected their lives, and some are too low to even bother addressing. So how does this mathematics anxiety affect us? We have here a diagram about completing a task. As you can see, a person goes from thinking about the problem, or a math problem to be exact, to overthinking it until having a mental block that will cause a person to commit mistakes. Mistakes that a person will take to heart, which will lead to the fear in math. So this will fear will build up until you have been consumed by the anxiety itself. So the level of mathematics anxiety increases through time if not addressed properly. So here is a visualization of math anxiety. So take your time to appreciate this diagram to better understand this problem. So as you can see, the symptoms and the causes have different impacts to an individual. So in this case, the symptoms can lead to poorer learning and teaching, while the causes can lead to avoidance of maths in general. So these different impacts implies that we should have different ways to address mathematics anxiety. So now that we have already an idea on mathematics anxiety, let us see what researchers have to say about it. So according to Buckley, 25% of 15-year-old students reported feeling helpless in mathematics problems, while 6 to 17% of the population experience math anxiety. Although the numbers are relatively small compared to the population, this is already alarming because an anxious person can easily spread the anxiety unconsciously. And who knows, the numbers might rise rapidly, which will make mathematics learning at risk. So in the Philippine context, Delgado and Casim in 2019, in their study, reported that Filipino learners experience moderate math anxiety. And due to the pandemic, due to the shift in the learning modality, due to the shift to the online learning setup, it was found out in Lailia et al. 2021 that among mathematics education students, moderate and math anxiety can still be observed. So what did the pandemic do to the education sector? So what did it do to the students? I know most of you can relate to this. So these are the challenges in a remote learning setup as reported by Cosgrove in 2021. First is the limited teacher-student and student-student interactions. Another is the reduced thinking time and increased stress due to the online assessments. And lastly, the struggle to maintain rapport. This is the case for the teachers. This maintain rapport with the students. So according to Mamolo in 2020 also, he added that internet connectivity, the activities at home, the chores, and less motivation to self-study can also be considered as the challenges in a remote learning setup. So these challenges may have affected mathematics anxiety of the students. So This lead to Ryan Christiansen to do his study. So due to the pandemic, schools were temporarily closed and learning had been interrupted. After some time, schools reopened but in a new learning modality. This is the remote learning setup. The classroom became virtual. Teachers and students are connected only by the internet. So this change really affected how learning happened within the students. So with this shift to remote learning, Mr. Ryan Christiansen ought to study his geometry students on how distance learning affected their mathematics anxiety and which practices in remote learning setup affected their anxiety. For his methods, he used a cross-sectional design and conducted a study in northern Minnesota. So the participants in the study is 41 geometry students obtained by convenient sampling. So this is his students. And the instrument used contained a 5-point Likert scale to know the change in mathematics anxiety among the students, and two open-ended questions for the activities or the practices that help not not help in their mathematics anxiety. So these questions are indicated in a Google form which has been given to the students, and the data gathering was conducted 1 week where the students are allowed to use their devices. So for the data analysis, descriptive statistics, one-way ANOVA was used, and in analyzing the open-ended questions, the answers are compiled and organized by themes. So here are the results, discussions, and conclusions of the study. So for the question, how has mathematical anxiety increased or decreased due to distance learning during the COVID-19 pandemic? So the results show that most students reported that their mathematics anxiety gotten worse or somewhat worse due this school year or due to the pandemic. So as you can see, it is a bigger portion. 22% say that it stayed the same, and the other students say that um, their mathematics anxiety got better. So it's a small portion said that it got better. It's also reported that the mean of the anxiety levels across semesters increased from spring, this is the start of the pandemic, to winter 2020, which is the time that when the study was conducted. So also in this graph, you can see the increase of the means. However, these means did not show statistical um, significance to say that the increase I mean there was no statistical difference, and the increase in the average anxiety level of student was not statistically significant. But although not statistically significant, the increase must not be neglected. So it is still a problem because it was reported that it is not that there has been an increase in the mathematics anxiety of the students. For the next question, have the strategies of self-assessment and feedback on assessments eased the anxiety? So he used his own strategies for his class. So he has retaking assessments, the methods of retaking assessments, and the use of emoji for self-assessment for self-assessment in his classes. So retaking assessment was found useful or very useful by the students, while the use of emoji in self-assessment was found to be not that useful in easing or in helping with their mathematics anxiety. So however, there is no statistical difference found. So we cannot say that the students' feelings on retaking assessments have any meaningful effect on their final anxiety levels. On the other hand, there has been a significant correlation to on the students' feelings on the emoji strategy to the students' average mathematics anxiety. And for our last research question to be addressed, what other factors have improved or made students' math anxiety worse? So these are the answers to the open-ended questions. And it was found out that these themes may made the students confident in geometry. So the one with the highest frequency of responses was the resources, the IXL. The IXL is a learning app, the notes, the reviews, and etc. So this is included in the practices or the instructions made by the teacher in the distance learning setup. So the next to it, very close, is the in-person learning, the face-to-face help, and the math lab. So physical learning is also sought to be one of the factors that made them confident. So other responses of the students are indicated in this box. For the factors that made the students less confident in geometry, so most of them answered nothing. So they are not able to respond or to give specific answers for this part. But next to it, we can see practice, homework, and assessments. So these are the other responses made by the students. So mostly it's their internal problems like lack of motivations, and some also think that it was the way that the teacher teaches. So with those results, here are our conclusions. So in both situations, full distance and hybrid learning, mathematical anxiety increased for most of the students. So we can say that the change in the learning modality negatively affected students' mathematics anxiety, which is quite alarming. Again, although it did not show statistical significance, the increase in mathematics anxiety is quite alarming. Next is that the emoji strategy by Sir Ryan Christiansen had no reducing effect on the mathematics anxiety. However, literature say that if implemented correctly, it will really help in addressing the mathematics anxiety of the students. So he ought to develop and properly implement this method to the students, although it was seen that it was not very helpful in their mathematics anxiety. So to continue, um, the retaking of assessments, allowing the students to reflect on their mistakes, showed anxiety reducing component rather. So this can be adapted by other teachers in managing their classroom. So they can apply this strategy because it was found to be anxiety reducing for the students of Mr. Christiansen. And lastly, here are the factors that help ease mathematics anxiety according to the study. So first is the teacher's physical interactions with the students. So now that we're slowly transitioning to physical classes again, this can be immediately addressed. However, if not, as educators, we need to think of ways to connect with our students even online. So it is up to the teacher on how are we going to reach out for our students. Next is some forms of structured practices such as notes, guided practice, formative assessments, and retakes are factors that help ease mathematics anxiety. So these include the practices implemented in class. So proper classroom management and instruction is a factor that can help ease mathematics anxiety. So for the factors made by that made anxiety worse for the students, most cannot identify a particular factor, but next to it is the assessment. So from this, we know that creating assessment should be given more attention since it is reported to make their anxiety worse. So we need to develop our assessments better so that we can um, it will not add to the anxiety of the students. So here are our key takeaways for today's topic. Number one is math anxiety is still a growing problem in mathematics education. So, various studies reported the presence of mathematics anxiety before and now during the pandemic, and is expected to exist in the future now that another shift to the modality will happen with the gradual reopening of physical classes. So, we know that there is a trend on the mathematics anxiety of students, according to various studies, that a change in the modality, a change in the um, mode of delivery or the learning of the students can increase mathematics anxiety. So with that, instruction plays a crucial role in the effort to address mathematics anxiety. So not only the teacher should be flexible, but also the instruction. So we need to appropriate instruction that will help the students, not only those with high level of mathematics anxiety, but also those with low levels of mathematics anxiety. So in short, we need to appropriate our instructions that will cater all students in all levels of their mathematics anxiety. So we need to continue to develop instructions that will lessen the anxiety of all students in any learning modality. So number three is addressing math anxiety should start at home. So especially for the children. So in this case, parents and guardians are crucial because they are the main influencers at home. So they are tasked to create a math-loving or positive math learning environment for their children so that the anxiety will not increase. Instead, it will lessen, and eventually their children will have a positive belief on mathematics. And lastly, the best way to find solution is to understand the problem. So although we have already learned a lot about mathematics anxiety up to this date, there are many things that are left unlearned since the world continues to change. Who would have expected a pandemic, right? So I recommend to study more on the different aspects of mathematics anxiety for us to have a wider perspective on the problem. And we will from that wider perspective, we will get to have more options in addressing the problem or in addressing mathematics anxiety. So that concludes my seminar about the mathematics anxiety and the COVID-19 pandemic. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? Let me see the chat box. Okay, thank you for your responses. Okay, here's one question. You said that addressing mathematics anxiety should start at home. So what specific method can we use? Okay, thank you for that question, ma'am. So aside from our own effort to slowly accept mathematics, to slowly love mathematics, to slowly see mathematics in a positive way, we need to create a positive learning environment, even at home. So especially for the parents, like what I said earlier, and the people around you. So we should refrain from speaking ill of mathematics in the presence of children or of students because they might um, acquire those negative connotations about mathematics that will eventually turn to fear or anxiety on mathematics. So don't use math as a panakot. So for children, instead, um, see math in a positive light. Give the tell the students the wonders of mathematics instead of scaring them with the numbers. So in short, encourage the people around you, encourage yourself to see and share math in a positive way. So did I answer your question? Yes, it starts from within. It starts with you and the people around you. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So if there are other questions, you can reach me at my email presented before you. If there are no other questions, that would be my talk for about mathematics anxiety and the COVID-19 pandemic. Once again, I am Regina Eduardo. Thank you very much.